it's really important that you focus on that and you make sure you have fully prepared. And that's why now I will talk about what you have to do to get ready and make sure it goes well. First of all, the general skills that I will be looking at in the portfolio. First of all, they have seen your CV most of the time. So, of course, they have seen your CV and your portfolio. And if they invite you, it's because they think you are matching. Otherwise, they will not waste their time. So you are here for a reason. But now they want to meet face to face. Why? To get to know you better, to interact with you, and to make sure you have the right personality, the right attitude, and to ask also more questions, of course, about your CV and all, but to make sure you are the right fit. And the kind of skills that we'll be looking are nowadays what my clients are looking for. They are looking for some technical software. Well, lots of company was asking for Revit these days for the past maybe 6 years now, I would say. Now, these days, I have few companies asking about Grasshopper. I'm not sure if it's like not many people have it, but for example, if you have it, it's always good. Freehand sketching. Back in time, every designer knew how to freehand sketch, but nowadays with digital and all, most of you don't know how to freehand sketch. But if you do, also make sure you highlight it or you talk about it on interview, because it's really appreciated when you do know. They will check the design stage in expertise, if you are client facing, if you can do business development, your creativity, your leadership. They might check how is your leadership skills. And again, attitude and behavior. This is everything. Like most of my candidates that are being rejected from an interview, it's because of attitude. My client will tell me they came late, they checked their phone in the middle of the interview. Some even will text someone in the middle of the interview, or they didn't look interested. Some people will tell me, I feel they didn't do enough search about us, and they were just here to have an interview, but they were not as interested as I thought. So that's why people reject candidate after interview. It's never because the portfolio is not nice, or otherwise they will not invite you. It's always because of small things like this, or sometimes they will tell me, this person was arrogant, basically. So we need the right balance on everything. Like showing confidence is very, very important, because they might ask you to do a presentation in front of a client, or also in the middle of the team. If you're not confident to go and ask when you did a mistake and you don't know, it's not right for them. So confidence is very important. There is a difference between confidence and arrogance, like you think you know everything and you did the best project in the world. This is how to succeed. Is the first thing is preparation. So like anything else, if you don't have a strong preparation, you will fail. There is no secret in life. If you didn't prepare, it won't go well. So how do you prepare? First of all, you have to make sure you check everything you can about the position, if there is information, if there is job description, about the company itself. So now it's very easy to find information about the company. You go on LinkedIn, you can see if they recently won an award. You can check what are their latest projects they're working on. You can even check who's working there on LinkedIn. So you can have an idea of the structure, how big is the company, like check the profile of your interviewer also. So that is very important, to check the profile of your interviewer, because you know who you are talking to, and you can have things in common. Maybe you went to the same university, or you have the same hobbies, and you want to mention it during the interview, because it has to be very interactive, basically. You don't want to ask questions like, I know you all been taught that when they ask you, do you have any question, you have to ask the questions, but the rules is actually ask question towards the interview. We don't want you to wait for the end of the interview and then come up with all the questions you have noted. It should be interactive. So let's say, for example, the interviewer is telling you, so what projects have you worked on? And then you tell them, oh, I delivered the SLS hotel, or I delivered the Burj Khalifa 20 years ago, whatever. But you have to ask questions back. You can say, oh, I just checked on your website that you are now working on the new Opus Tower. And then it's interactive, and you can ask a specific question, like, for example, if I were to get this position, what stage of the design I would be working on. So at least it shows that you are really interested, that they interview you, but you also interview them. This is really key, because if they feel that no matter what will happen, you are so desperate that you just want the position, that you are just trying to answer what they want to hear, it's not right for them. They want someone that is so interested in them, so interested in their projects. So they are sure that you choose them also. Because again, most of the time they will just tell me, no, it's not working, because they didn't seem passionate, they didn't seem motivated, they didn't have the right dynamic. So it's very, very important. Body language is important also. If you look very shy, you sit like this, and like, I don't know, like, make sure you just sit comfortable, straight. You keep eye contact also, because if every time someone asking a question, you look down, again, you will look shy and not professional. And they want to make sure that if they hire you, they can put you in front of a client to pitch the project, or even if it's a junior position, again, you might have to go and ask the design manager something. So they want to, or even to lead a small team of, let's say, draftsmen. Or so it's confidence is super important, and body language, and to show that. And to not, again, to show confidence, you have to be there super early. Because if you arrive late and you run through the elevator and you are sweating and you cannot catch your breath, and you will start the interview and all will go wrong. So arrive early, make sure you are calm, make sure you had your coffee, and make sure you present very well. For the presentation, it's not about wearing a suit and a tie for a male, for example, and very corporate for female. No. Depends on the position you apply for. Of course, if you're in banking, we are asking for suits, but for designers, usually it's more it's less corporate. So you can choose your outfit, but still it should be like well appropriate for the interview. Stay positive. This is so important. Again, some people, when you ask them why did you leave your previous company, they will be going into so many gossips, like my manager was rude, and he was always late, and he talked to me bad, and maybe it's a reason, and it's a fair enough reason. But just don't go into too many details. Just said you can say I had issue with my management. That's fine, but don't say too many bad stuff. Or you can say there was salary delay, for example. That's a very fair reason to leave. And usually we know. Like it's terrible, but there is companies that are known to have a director that lead with fear, for example. And we know sometimes most of the time people are looking to move from this company. So if you said you were on this company and you leave due to management issue, we will know, because the market is small. But you especially don't have to gossip, because if you do that, they will think you will join them, and then in the future you will do the same about them. You will talk bad about them. So no matter what the reason is, and no matter how bad, for example, you had salary delay for 6 months, that's terrible. But again, just say it on a normal way. It's a fair reason, but no need to go too much into details on these specific questions. Everything you say should be positive. No one wants negative people in general. That's very that's a rule. Like, negative people are not good for the clients, for the team, for everything. So if we interview someone that's a bit negative, we will not think it will be a good fit. Be polite. So that's something, again, I have a client, she rejected a candidate because he did super well on interview, he was super good, but he didn't say hello and he didn't say goodbye to the receptionist. And she find it extremely rude because it's not about treating the interviewer super well and then someone else super bad. It will show who you are. So you have to mind all your environment, be polite with everyone. And this is my personality in general. Even if someone is super rude in front of me, I stay who I am and I stay polite. But especially in interview, it's really, really important. You can just get rejected from a job for very small thing. And especially now, so 8 years ago, when I started recruiting in Dubai, the market was completely different. There was not so many talents here, not so many expats. So usually you will have much more chance to get a job. But nowadays, because of what happened with COVID, lots of people are in the market, and lots of good people also are in the market. So you have to make the difference. You have to make the difference by your personality, by the way you present on interview, because they will just reject with very, very small reason. So now you want to know what kind of questions you can expect during the interview, so you can get ready for that. So this is the kind of template we at LNC Recruitment use. Every companies have different kind of strategy and templates, but in general, it will follow this kind of rules. First of all, we will want to check your experience. So we will ask you questions to know more about you and your past experience. So you can expect questions such as, tell me about yourself. Are you still working with this company? And if yes, why would you like to move? Please describe your current responsibilities. So these questions is very important. When I ask these questions, sometimes I get seriously someone telling me, seriously, some people are saying, I'm a design architect and it's written in my CV what I do. I'm like, okay, if I ask you the questions, it's because I want more details and I want you to elaborate. Can you please elaborate? So make sure this is not the majority, but most of the time it's not detailed enough. So make sure like you explain exactly what you do on a daily basis. Let's say I work on project from concept design to site. 2 days in a week, I go to site to visit and make sure it's going on time. I sit with my team to manage the draftman. You want to detail. Again, it's always about balance. Too short answers are not good. Also, too long answers, if you spend 20 minutes explaining, also it will be a problem. But it's always about the right balance to explain what you've done, what you are doing. It's very good. Then, who do you report to? This is questions I will ask you to understand the structure of your company, because again, in a huge company, you might be very senior, 15 years with the company, but still be senior and reporting to the design director. And in a small company, you might be 3 years experience and already be the design manager. So we will want to a bit understand the structure. So who's your manager and how many people do you manage, if you do manage people? Why did you leave your previous employer? So we talked about this previously. Again, don't say anything negative, please. Then we will want to verify your education. So we will just ask you about, is it a degree or is it a diploma? And is it attested in Dubai? Because here, sometimes for visa purposes, on some positions, they need it to be attested. Not all the time, but if you have time and you didn't do it yet, I really recommend you to attest your degree. Competency verification question. So here, we know about your experience, but we want to know what's your competence, which is a bit different. We want to know what did you learn. That can be technically or on more of like managerial leadership skills. So what did you learn during all this time working? So we will ask you this question directly. What did you learn during your last employment? What project would you consider being the most significant in your career? So at least we will target 1 or 2 projects and we want you to talk about it. Again, you should talk about it with passion and you should talk about it in details. Pitch our company to me as if I were buying our product. This is more for business development, sales position. I don't know if any of you are, but sometimes you are an architect and you are going into more business development. They want to see if you did your search about the company and how you will be able to represent. Because once you join the company, and us as hiring people, we want people to join our company and be able to represent us. So basically, you will be the future image of the company. So if you didn't learn about the company or if you don't sell the company right, it's really not a good point. Do you usually spend more time entertaining existing clients or finding new leads? Again, this is more for sales role to just see if you've been entertaining clients or if you do more business development. What have you done professionally that is not an experience you would want to repeat? This is also to see if you know how to learn from your mistake. And if you get this question, make sure you have an answer. Because if you said nothing, it's not true. I mean, everything do something wrong. Everyone make mistakes. We are human beings, but we want to make sure that you learn from it and that you are not doing it again. So make sure you have some answers ready, because otherwise it will not look great. What is your definition of hard work? If you get this question on interview, make sure you say you are hardworking. Even if, hardworking doesn't mean working 24/7 day, because I know that the fear of lots of candidates here. I know that some design agency, they work a lot. When they have submissions, they work in the weekend, they work at night, they stay in the office, and I know lots of candidates feel that. And I agree with you. You should have a work-life balance. It's a must. But hardworking doesn't mean working a lot, but it means working smart. So you can work a bit less, but being very, very productive. But in general, in interview, you should know that you should say, you should imagine that if you were interviewing if you were interviewing someone, what kind of response would you like to hear? You need to hear that the people are basically hardworking. But again, I have candidates recently. She told me, I have a young baby at home. She's only 2 years. So I cannot join a company that are known for working a lot. And then she will just not apply for this kind of specific company. That's why you need to know exactly where you're applying, where you are going, because it will not work, the timings for you. Behavioral questions. So in this part, the interviewer will want to know how you will behave in a situation. Let's say they hire you. You have to go present the concept design to the client, and the client is super unhappy. And they want to know how you will react once you are in the company, because as I said earlier, you will be representing the company itself. So we want to make sure you will know how to react, basically. And for this, they will ask you questions about the past experience. So they will want to know how did you behave in the past, so they will know how you will behave in the future. So you can expect questions such as, can you tell me the last time your manager was unhappy with your work and how did you react? Again, here, you should have answer. Like, even if it's, sometimes on interview, even it happens to me a lot, that you don't know the answer. You have to think of it. And the power of silence is so important. I'm known, I talk too fast. I don't do pause, but you should do pause. So if you don't know the answer, it's fine. You can tell, oh, I didn't expect this answer. I will think of it. And then you can take 2-3 seconds to think and then reply. Instead of rushing the answer and then saying something completely wrong and you don't know where you are going and you lose all your confidence. So make sure you sit back, you relax, you take some time, and it's fine, to have some humor or to try to, it will make the interview more comfortable also, to just say, oh, that was very unexpected question. It will always be better than saying something wrong. But you should always have an example. When is the last time you had to deal with a difficult client and how did you handle the situation? That's very important, especially here in the Middle East or everywhere in the world. As long as you are the client and you're paying, usually you will ask a lot. So here as a designer, it's important that you know how to deal with this. How do you find solution? How do you understand their need? For example, I have a client, it's a design studio. They invite candidates for interview and then they ask them to do a design presentation, to a design test, and they ask them to come back and to present the design as if they were presenting to the client. And if the candidates do the presentation and at the end not ask more questions to see how they can improve the client, as if it, how they can improve the design as if it was the client, they will not hire them, just because they're not trying to understand more the client need and trying to satisfy more the client. So that's very important to have also example and to be able to talk about difficult situations that you have been handling in the past. How do you handle the critiques from your management? Again, that's a big point at the moment. It's a bit linked to the fact that attitude is everything, and nowadays, I hear a lot of my clients complaining about that in their teams, sometimes they have designers that they don't know how to handle critics. Of course, the critics should be justified and right. If the critics is not right, then you're right. But most of the time, the critics, you have to, even me, especially when I was younger, if my manager give me a critics, I will be so offended that I will talk back immediately. I will tell her no, but, and I will justify every time. And most of the time, when I go home to sleep and I reflect, I will be thinking, actually, I was wrong. But I didn't want to admit it because it was my ego. But it's better to leave it, think about it, reflect, come back. If the critics is right, you just say what they said and you said, you were right, I will do it another way. If the critics was not right at all, then you just don't bring the subject again. But they might ask you this question. That's something very, very important, that you know how to handle the critics, and that you can prove them that once you get the critics, you know how to change, also how to question yourself. Then personality and opinion questions. So here again, it's a bit what I said earlier. When they invite you for interview, they already saw your CV and portfolio. They know it's matching. So now they want to know more about you, who you are, because you're going to spend lots of time with the company, especially if you work with this kind of company that work over the weekend and at nights. So they want to know if personality-wise you will fit with the team. And sometimes also, there is a lot of manager with big character in the UAE. They want to know if you will be able to handle their character. And also, usually there is no bad and wrong answers, because every personality can fit. For example, me, I'm an introvert, but it doesn't mean that I cannot do, for example, a sales job, because you can be super good at what you do, but not being very loud and always going out and doing social events and all. But it's good that we just get to know. Both can be performing as good, but we need to know. So you can expect questions such as, what's something that you used to believe but you no longer believe? So that's good also to know how do you, it can be like, for example, I used to believe that leadership skills, it's something you're born with, but actually towards my career, I learned how to be a good leader. It's good to this kind of answer to show also that how did you change your mind, because we need also people able to change their mind. People that close-minded and think they're always right doesn't work well inside the team. What motivates you? Again, there is no good and bad answer. It can be, for example, like, let's say before, for me, it was my career. I wanted to quickly become a manager, a senior, but now it's more my family motivates me. It can be anything. We just want to get to know you. Why did you choose this subject at university? Again, just to see your taste. What would your colleagues or managers say about you? That's also very important, because we want to understand how you're perceived with other. I have a candidate, she told me, I'm the one with my headphones always and always singing in the office. But that's super cool. I mean, that's nice to hear and to know that you are this kind of person. So again, there is no, I'm super loud. I'm always talking loud to people, making jokes. It's also fine. I mean, there is, it's just to get to know you. What's something you'd be happy doing every single day for the rest of your career? So we want to know what you're passionate about and how passionate person you are actually. Who do you admire and why? So again, that's something, if you have this question, make sure you have an answer to that. Again, if you don't have it right away, you can think of it. Most of the designers, they will tell, I don't know, the Hadid, or they will say famous designers, but it can be anything. Like, I have a client, she told me, I love when the candidates say a member of the family. For example, if they say, I admire my parents or my mom because she worked hard, it shows that they have good base, but doesn't have to be. I mean, again, it can be anything, but you have to have an answer. Otherwise, they will think you don't have a personality. Like, you can be introvert in life, but still you should have passion. You should have people you admire. You should have a reason to wake up in the morning. At the end, we will ask you some expectation verification questions. We just want to make sure that in general we ask you, especially me as a recruiter, I will make sure the company knows, so no one wastes their time going for an interview if you're expecting 30,000 and it's only paying 20. But they will maybe re-ask, so be ready to answer these questions about your salary expectations. Again, lots of people are asking me to consult about that, especially when it's fresh graduate, junior. It's a bit difficult to answer, but in general, you can ask back, what is your budget? You can try to get more information. And then if for sure you will not take less than 15,000, you say it, because it's the truth. But if you are very flexible, because for you it's not about money, but more about the experience, you can say it, I'm quite flexible. And then you can say a range from 10 to 20, like at least you keep the options very open. Or how long is your notice period? Here we just want to know how quickly you can join. In general, for all the positions, the quickest you are available, the best. So if you have a 2 months, 3 months notice period, it can be negative for the interviewer, but it's a fact. But in general, you can say, in my contract, 3 months. However, if I receive an offer, I still have some annual leave to take, I might be able to be released earlier. That will always make your interviewer happy. And then the question, what do you expect from your next position? It's more about the responsibilities and the kind of, again, because I want to make sure that it's really matching and you will be happy. Because one of the biggest fear of the hiring company, especially these days, is to have a big turnover. They are very scared that someone will join, and then after 1 month, 2 months, they'll have what they want. For example, I have a candidate now, he was applying with me, and his dream was actually to join a developer, but he was still trying with design consultancy. And then he got an offer and he wanted to join, but then after a while, as soon as he had an offer from developer, he left. So this is something that I want to make sure it's what you want, so you will stay long term. Because if they hire you something that you're not happy about, you will keep your option open and you will try to move, which makes sense. You should always, and I always say that to my candidates, you should always do what's best for you. But that's why it's very important that before I'm interviewing, you are sure they are of interest, they are good for you, and you really want to join. If you don't, it's better to not apply or to refuse to go on interview rather than to go on interview being not too motivated. And then, of course, you will have to know more about them. So you are not sure yet, you're 100% in, and it's fine. But if you are not interested, just don't go, it's better. And then in conclusion, the interviewer will ask you, do you have any question for me? So this I already told you. You must have a question. Unless you've been doing your job well and you've been asking lots of questions towards the interview, and it's actually better. It's much better to ask questions during the interview, because the worst feeling for an interviewer is to feel we are interviewing robot. Like we ask questions, they answer. We ask questions, they answer. It's not interactive. It's not pleasant. It doesn't show any interest from the other side. So it's better to ask questions towards. And if you ask plenty of questions, and at this stage you don't have any questions, it's fine. You can say, I ask all my questions now, but if I have any questions that comes to my mind later on, I will let you know. But in general, if you didn't ask any question and now they ask you and you don't have any question, you'll not get the job, for sure. Are you currently in a process with other company and what stage are you in? We might ask you this just to make sure we know how quickly we have to make a decision. Because, for example, if you have another offer, we cannot interview 10 more candidates and give you an answer after 2 weeks. You will be gone. So that's why we ask this question. We might ask you to do, for sales or business development, to do a business plan, or for design people to do a design exercise. So now be ready that most of the company now, especially when you are immediately available, they will try, because they are scared about the turnover, that people join and leave after a few months, they do more and more things to test you. So they will ask you to do a design test at home. They will ask you to join for 2 days in the office and do some testing, some trial, usually paid trial, because it's not fair to come for 2 days and it's not paid. Sometimes it's only 1 day assessing, which is not paid. It's as an interview. Sometimes I will ask you to come for 2 weeks trial. So this is something you should expect in the current market, to have a long process where you are being tested, basically. So be ready for that. And then could you share the contact details of your line manager? So reference check, it's something that they do quite a lot here in the Middle East. They will ask your previous manager, and they will call them and they will ask about you. So make sure you give the manager that had a good things to say about you. Now, just to keep in mind for you in the future, to just kind of about everything I said again, the most important is attitude. Attitude. It's so important. Please don't take your phone in the middle of the interview. Don't look down when we spoke to you. Don't be late. Please don't be late. You know how is it in Dubai? The interview is in business bay. You know there is no car park there. There is no space to park. You should leave 1 hour before, or take a taxi if it's really a place that you don't know if you can park. But there cannot be very excuses to be late in Dubai, because we all know about the traffic, unless really something huge has happened. But if it's the case, make sure you inform your interviewer. Transparency is different than showing your weaknesses. In general, I would say it's super important to be transparent. Some candidates will tell me, for example, when I ask my previous salary, I want to lie. I want to say it was bigger, because otherwise they will always try to offer me less. But it's better to say the truth in general, because when you lie, it will come back to you. But at the same time, you don't want to go all in and show all your weaknesses. Like for example, when they said, what is your weaknesses? This specific question, you don't want to say all your weaknesses, like, oh, I'm always late, I'm not focusing enough. We don't need that. So you have to be transparent. Like, for example, for me, I think my weakness is, I don't know, I'm not so good in negotiating, let's say, but I'm working on it, and I'm learning it better. But it should be transparent, and at the same time show how good you are doing to improve it. Confidence versus arrogance. I spoke to you a bit about that. You must be confident. We cannot hire people that are not confident that they can do their job, unless for very specific position. Like, for example, if you have, let's say, CAD draftsman, where you're not going to have to interact at all with the client and you're super good in detailing, you're still going to get the job. But most of the job you have to interact, so you have to show confidence. And for this, you have to be well prepared, as I said, and all to be able to show confidence. But again, don't be arrogant. I have people having been rejected from interview because they show arrogance, because they act like if they know everything. And I can most of the time I interview people, and I can hear some people telling me, for example, recently ask, do you have, can you showcase some more design about this project? And the person say, okay, just go down to the marina and check it. I mean, it's just be mindful of what you are saying and how the person in front of you will perceive it. Make sure, imagine like you are the interviewer. What would you like to hear? And then follow-up versus insisting. It's always good to do a quick follow-up email, especially when they give you their direct business card with their contact number. So with the follow-up, the very good thing is that they will show you are interested and you are really want to have an answer. And sometimes I have candidates, and that's a bit of a mistake, and it doesn't work. When they are very frustrated, it takes too long. Sometimes they will tell me, Esther, I had another offer. Can you make sure I have the response today? If it's true you have another offer, you should say it. You must say it, because at least you get the chance, you let them have a chance to give you an offer also, so you can choose. So if it's true, please say it, because at the end of the day, if they don't offer you, you'll go with the one you have. But if it's not true, the problem is when the company is being rushed and they didn't make their decision yet, they will tell you, okay, then go with the other offer because we still have more candidates to meet. So if you have still time to wait, you are not in a rush, The only reason you should really insist is you have another offer, or you're on a visit visa in Dubai and you have only 1 week to stay. After that, you will be leaving the country. These kind of things, you can mention it so we can rush the process. But otherwise, in general, just do quick follow-up once a week and just wait for it. And sometimes, and I know that's very, very frustrating, on your application, most of the time you don't have any feedback. And on interview, usually we try to give you feedback because you've been there for the interview, so you deserve feedback for sure. But sometimes you will never get feedback also. Just because most of the time, why you are not selected. I have a lot of candidates coming to me and tell me, Esther, can you tell me the exact reason why I'm not selected so I can work on it? Which is a fair question. But most of the time, it's just because they had 10 interviews, and out of the 10, one of them was a bit more fitting the team or the specific project. It's sometimes very small reason. So it's not about you most of the time. It's a very, very competitive market. So the last thing I want to say before I let you talk or give some advice also or ask questions, the last thing I want to say, it's difficult market. Please do not lose your confidence along the way. Maybe you've been applying for 3 months, 6 months, 1 year, and I'm very, very sorry for that. And I know how difficult it is, but stay confident, because the more you lose your confidence on the way, the more difficult it will be. So it's easy to say, but if you're not working for a long time, try to do some courses like Revit course or webinars, and try to do a freelance project if you can, like even for free, like let's help your friend that has recently opened a cafe to redesign, rearrange. So at least you keep your mind busy, and when you go to interview, you have things to talk about. That's very important. And in general, yeah, as a recruiter, we are always here to support. We cannot do it as much as we want, sorry, but we are very much here to try and help. And that's why I was very happy to be invited today to do this small workshop. And now, yeah, I can see there is some questions in the chat, but if you want to, I think it's even better if you want to open your camera and your microphone, or only your microphone. If you don't want to open your camera, that's fine. But if you want to ask a question, or even you can give some advice about your experience, how this interview went wrong for you and what did you learn from it, I think